The date is July 19, 2017. A government informant, who is a member of the New York City Young Gunners, also known as YG's gang, is about to testify in federal court. The prosecutor begins questioning him.
Good morning, Mr. Brooks.
Good morning.
Do you have any nicknames, Mr. Brooks?
Yes. Day or Dala.
Mr. Brooks, where do you currently live?
Geo facility.
Where did you live before you lived at the Geo facility?
MDC Brooklyn.
When were you arrested?
June 26, 2015.
Are you here testifying pursuant to a cooperation agreement with the government?
Yes.
Mr. Brooks, were you ever a member of a gang?
Yes.
What gang?
YG's, the Young Gunners.
Do you see any members of that gang in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Who do you see?
Rel.
Can you identify Rel by pointing him out and by an article of clothing that he is wearing? Did Rel ever tell you about any crimes that he committed?
Yes.
What types of crimes did he tell you about?
Murder, robberies, shootings.
Let's talk about the murder that Rel told you about. Did Rel tell you who the victim of that murder was?
Yes.
Who was that?
Moises Lora.
Moises Lora, also known as Noah Balla, was a 16-year-old member of the Cortlandt Avenue Crew, or OG's, gang, but he was not a top associate by any means. His name lives in infamy to this day, with some New York City drill rappers disrespecting him constantly.
Don't like when you're blocking, think shit sweet, cause you go out like Noah. Dog, I'm
one-on-one, nigga, he ain't dead. He from Noah Balla, stomp him out, tune him in his head, like what Noah got.
Newly released files show that prosecutors stated the following. This is the center of the Melrose housing projects. 700 Morris Avenue is one of the buildings in it. It's the building that Mr. Lora lived in. This is supposed to be a place where people get affordable housing, live their lives, go to work. Their children are supposed to be able to go and play, and they're not supposed to fear for their safety or worry that their children are going to be exposed to violence or be the victims of violence. Now, Mr. Lora was a member of a gang. He was regarded as kind of a mascot. He is a little guy. He was short. He was 90 pounds. We don't know if he had a medical disorder, but he was frail. On or about April 16, 2012, a group of YG's members including William, Rel, Bracy, Wendell, Deli Del, Bell, and Anthony Reddick, a.k.a. Aunt Flocka, were hanging out in the Bronx, near the vicinity of 163rd Street and Morris Avenue. This large group of YG's members are getting drunk off of hard liquor, and begin arguing amongst each other about who among them had put in the most work for the YG's. Bracy, Bell, and Reddick all have extremely extensive criminal histories. In fact, Bell had just recently gotten out of a 5-year stint following a juvenile adjudication for murder. When he was just 13, he stabbed another teenager to death with a kitchen knife, but the Bronx DEA allowed him to reach a deal that would have him released extremely early. Bell is getting extremely angry and adamant that he puts in the most work for the gang, and strongly urges everyone to follow him to rival CAC territory on Morris Avenue to settle the dispute. The large group of YG's members walks several blocks down to the Melrose projects, passing by the Bronx County Criminal Court. Not long after this, a man calls 911.
New York City 911, do you need police, fire, or medical?
The man states that he was returning from the store and was walking under some scaffolding when he saw a group of 6 or 7 tall teenage dark-skinned male blacks attacking 2 male Hispanics. He knew the victim from the neighborhood. He observes 2 of the perpetrators attacking the kid on the ground, stomping him, and the others were attacking the other male Hispanic, who was screaming for help and asking for anybody to call 911, which he did. He tells the dispatcher that the group is now running towards a football field on Melrose Avenue. The NYPD responds and finds 16-year-old Moises Lora, also known as Noah Balla, dying in a pool of his own blood. The injuries are so severe that they believe that he has been shot.
EMS
Arrived and transported Lora to Lincoln Hospital, but he later died. An autopsy, being shown publicly for the first time since Bracey's sentencing, reveals that the extent of the beating of Lora by the YGs was nothing short of barbaric. Lora's right leg was completely broken. He had blunt impact injuries on his lower extremities, hands, torso, legs, neck, head, and face. His skull was fractured in multiple places, and his brain was severely damaged to the point that he had a TBI.
And did Rel describe to you what happened when they proceeded to Cortland?
Yes.
What did he tell you?
They walked to Cortland. They seen Noah and Polo sitting on the bench.
When they saw Noah and Polo on the bench, were they facing Noah and Polo or were they behind Noah and Polo?
They was behind them.
What happened after they saw Noah and Polo on the bench?
They was creeping up on them. They hopped the gate, started walking through the grass. Noah and Polo was speaking. Noah got up. As he was talking, he got up and jumped off the bench. When he went to turn around, he seen them.
He saw who?
He seen Deli and Rel. He told Polo. They started to run. As they started to run, Noah broke his leg. Polo kept running. They caught Noah, and they jumped him.
Who caught Noah?
Deli, Rel, Mel, Aunt Flocka, and the other Rel.
You said they jumped him?
Yes.
Did Rel tell you what he did to Noah?
Kicked him.
Did Rel tell you what he did to Polo, if anything?
Not exactly.
Did he describe what happened to Polo?
He said Polo came back and they also jumped him.
So first Polo ran away?
Yes.
And then at some point he came back?
Yes.
And that's when they jumped Polo?
Yes.
Did Rel tell you what happened after they jumped Polo and Noah?
They walked down 151 and Morris and they proceeded to Takim's house.
Did he tell you what happened at Takim's house?
Deli got there and immediately started talking about the murder.
Who was at Takim's house?
Deli, Rel, the other Rel, Mel, and Aunt Flocka.
Did Rel describe to you what Deli was saying at Takim's house?
He said they were saying that they thought they killed him, and Deli was saying, "No, I killed him. I was the one stomping on his head. Y'all was just kicking him."
And what, if anything, did Rel say about what he thought about Deli talking about the murder at Takim's house?
He said he thought it was a bad idea. He thought that Takim would be the one to tell on him.
Rel was right. Takim Berry ended up being the missing link that got the YG's members, including him, arrested for the murder of Noah Balla many years later. Rel, also known as William Bracey, began plotting ways of getting out of the situation. He was notoriously violent, much like Deli Del. In fact, years after he participated in the killing of Noah Balla, he shot a man in the balls, and a police officer had to retrieve a piece of the victim's testicle from the sidewalk. In addition to this, Rel was also very cunning. While in jail in the Metropolitan Detention Center, Rel showed a fellow inmate a still picture from the surveillance video of him and his associates leaving the crime scene. Rel then asked the inmate to identify him in the picture. The inmate picked the wrong person. Rel was ecstatic. He told the inmate that if he couldn't pick him out, it would be impossible for the government to do so at trial. His plan was foolproof. He was sure that he would escape imprisonment for helping commit one of the most brutal murders in Bronx, New York City history. There was just one small, tiny, minuscule problem. When he was explaining to the inmate that he picked the wrong person, Rel told him where he actually was located in the photo. That inmate, who himself was facing serious prison time, ended up being Dala, the government informant who was also a YG's member. When Rel realized that Dala would be testifying on behalf of the government, he had to think of a new plan. He decided that he would try to argue that he was simply present at the site of the murder of Noah Bala, and did not take an active role in it. After all, with Deli Del being the one who bragged about stomping on Noah's head, it would be hard for the government to prove that Rel did anything. This plan didn't work either. Dala, the government informant, also had another conversation with Deli Del and Rel while they were in jail. Deli told him that he was jumping up and down on Noah Bala's head, stomping on his head with both feet while Rel and others just kicked him. Upon hearing this statement, Rel laughed, and later corroborated it by saying that he did in fact kick Noah repeatedly. Finally, Rel's last-ditch attempt at getting a light sentence was a letter from his mother, as well as college researchers who said that he was college material and actually a pretty good kid, who was the unfortunate victim of NYPD harassment. The judge disagreed. Judge Valerie Caproni sentenced William Bracey, also known as Rel, to 33 years in federal prison for the murder of Noah Balla. She told him, "Mr. Bracey, you have been convicted of one of the most serious federal offenses. The Young Gunners Gang, which you were a high-level leader of and which you acknowledge being a part of for years, made life absolutely awful in that area of the Bronx. While you and your buddies were shooting at each other and brawling in the street and selling drugs and kicking people to death, there were other people in that community who were trying to live a decent life. They were trying to raise their children, they were trying to go to work, take their children to school, and you made their life hell. There is no other way of describing it. I find the portrayal of you by the researchers to actually make your behavior more serious than some of your buddies who also did terrible things. Based on their letters, you actually thought about what was going on in your neighborhood. You were able to articulate what the problems in the neighborhood were. Those conversations had to have included a discussion of the dangers and the horrors of street gangs. They had to. Those people were too smart not to have discussed that with you. And yet you remained in the gang, rising to the level of the head of a subset, presumably lying regularly to the researchers to portray yourself as just the innocent victim of overzealous policing. You and your buddies, okay, you were drinking. You know what, we have all been drinking. We've all been drunk. We don't all grab somebody and beat him to death. You can't excuse this for having imbibed alcohol that day. You and your buddies intentionally went into rival territory looking for trouble to show what big men you were to show that you could do work for your gang. So what did you do? You found someone. That's depraved. People don't hunt for other people to hurt. That is not what people are supposed to do. That would be depraved conduct by itself, that you went looking for trouble to go hurt somebody, and it would justify a long sentence, even if you yourself never kicked Lora. But you did. You kicked a 90-pound boy who, running from you, fell. He could not get up to run away. Your buddy Bell stomped on his head, and you kicked his body. I am struck by the fact that you are 22 years old, you have no legitimate work history, you have a child who needs financial and emotional support, and yet that did not motivate you to do anything to consider getting a job. You have had positive role models. Your mother got clean from drugs and became a community activist. You had high-level attention from social science researchers who thought you were college material. None of that affected your behavior at all. I think it didn't affect it because you have no respect for the notion of living within the rules of society. If this were just a matter of making poor choices, it would be different. But I keep coming back to the fact that the murder of Noah was a particularly depraved homicide. Even if he hadn't died, the notion that you would kick someone literally who is down, who cannot run away from you, what were you thinking? That level of depravity is not just a matter of being young. It is not just a matter of growing up in a bad neighborhood without positive role models. It reflects a lack of empathy. Finally she asked, "Mr. Bracey, do you know what empathy is?" He replied simply, "No ma'am." The ripple effects of this brutal homicide continue to this very day in the city of New York. This is very much a contemporary issue. This has been the Noah Balla Files.